So, hello, Keri. Thanks for joining me. Maybe you can tell me a little bit about yourself and how you're involved with PAC and what do you do in PAC? What is it that PAC stands for, first of all?
Okay, PAC stands for Parents Advocating Collectively for Kin.
Mm.
My name's Keri. I've been working for 11, 12 years as an outreach worker in the downtown east side. I went and did a master's in public policy. I feel very passionate about drug policy. I'm against prohibition. I did my practicum with BC Yukon drug war survivors, where we formed, I was involved in the Women's Committee, which was a group of allies and peers. And from there we formed PAC in response to children being removed from their parents or stolen from their parents. When there was any substance use, whether it was,
So they're apprehended.
and not always. Well, usually there are better ways. In fact, I would argue always there are better ways, and we've been witness to a lot of the trauma when children are taken. And
What are some of the better ways? Just
Better
I'm curious.
well, we're actually pushing, instead of mandatory reporting, we're pushing for mandatory supporting. And they don't give that much support, is what we're seeing.
I see.
And
They just apprehend.
is what we're seeing.
It's a very blunt instrument then.
Very blunt, and a lot of blame, shame, and punishment of the parent or parents. And after the child is taken, we see the parents do much worse. And if there is any substance use, it increases. And they're at a much higher risk of overdose.
So the apprehension can actually do harm.
It does do harm. Yeah.
To both the family member and the child.
Yeah, and we want to argue that if it's child-centered, it's got to also be mother and father-centered as well. Because for the child to do well, the parents have to do well, because there will always be that connection. So our group is creating training modules. So our group is BC-wide, and we're creating training modules to train peers to become advocates. And we've got funding to pay peers to do the training and eventually do the work. And we hope that more than just peers do it. We want to see the wider community do our training modules.
But right now you're focusing on peers, on
right.
users themselves, and training them so that they can do that type of advocacy.
That's right.
So what for example, what's the type of advocacy that you might?
So we've been working with mothers who are either at risk or having their children taken away. And so we support by, like I had a mother and child staying with me because unless there was 24/7 supervision, they were going to remove the child. Or we
so that's very direct support.
Very direct support. We will help with things like housing, disability. We'll connect them to a lawyer. We've got one woman involved with our group that used to be a team lead at the MCFD. And then found herself on the other side of the table, and that ended up going to the Human Rights Tribunal. But she basically said she would never sit on the other side of the table ever again. So she's been a fantastic support with our group.
A ministry worker, but now has kind of seen the light and
exactly
joined the other side in a sense.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. And so what do you imagine for this type of training to be like in the coming months and years? Do you see it as ramping up? Do you want it to be more generalized? Is the dream to have a province-wide program, or what's the future for?
Well, it already is ramping up. We're already getting more and more funding. A lot of our funding, our seed money was from the Canadian Action Initiative, and then we started getting more funding from the Canadian Women's Foundation, and now from Health Canada. And so we are ramping up, and it will be province-wide. The problem we've been facing is there are so many mothers and families in crisis that we've been responding to that, and that's really slowed us down. But we're hoping to have these modules up and running in the next 2 to 3 months, and then start having peers do the training. So province-wide, our hope is that it spreads across the country, and I think that's what Health Canada is hoping as well.
And the PAC framework, it doesn't involve abstinence or recovery or detox or anything like that. what would it not involve typically as someone who doesn't know that much about it? Would it involve detox at all, or?
No, it's not abstinence based.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say it's more harm reduction based.
Mm-hmm.
It's meeting people where they're at. So we actually know parents who are using substances that are still able to parent.
Mm-hmm.
They have a
High functioning. Yeah.
high functioning. They have a safety plan. They have a partner or family that can support when they're needing to use. A mother that I recently supported, she may have been using. I saw no evidence of it. She was staying with me. Great mother, but she was doing a urine drug screen that wasn't showing that. But she'd also had a tooth pulled and was using Oragel, and so who knows? But at the end of the day,
but she would be someone at risk of losing her child.
well, she was at risk.
If not for your assistance.
Well, even with my assistance, they ended up taking. Well, basically, we ended up having police and social workers here saying it was an unfavorable urine drug screen. So it was not based on her parenting at all.
Oh, I see. It
Which I was seeing. They were not seeing, and they wouldn't ask me for my feedback.
Based only on the test.
And they didn't even know how to read their reports properly. They couldn't tell us how much was in there. And so I ended up looking after her son for 10 weeks. And it's a longer story, but it was really, from our point of view, just so much harm inflicted.
So that's one illustration of the type of work or support and training that PAC wants to deliver.
Yeah. And one of our modules is called Know Your Rights. Another one's around support around pregnancy, prenatal, perinatal, and postnatal. Another one is just on advocacy. Susan Boyd and Jade Boyd have done a module on the history of surveillance and drug prohibition.
Interesting. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. So that's the module that you teach to...
That's right. We're actually talking to UBC CPD, the Continuing Professional Development, about the platform they use to make sure we can get ours on something, the same platform or something similar.
Oh, amazing. Okay, well, that's amazing and food for thought. Such an amazing program. I hope that it can be further generalized so that it can be available to the general public in BC.
Yeah,
and not just, right now it's more in the Lower Mainland, right?
Well, so we have 3 coordinators. 2 are Indigenous. So we're Indigenous and peer run. So the one Indigenous coordinator is in Kelowna, one is in Surrey, and then the non-binary coordinator, Hawkfeather, is in Burnaby, was on the Sunshine Coast. And
so you kind of have different regions right now.
Yeah, and we want to expand. So, and we want to, once the training's in place, we want to have groups throughout the province gathering peers to do the training.
And if we wanted to know more about it, what would we Google? What would be?
Well, our website is www.pacbc.org. I'm not sure if you Google PAC if it'll come up yet. We'll have to figure that out. And the other piece is we have a few really great partners. We've partnered with a group in Vancouver called Keeping Families Together. West Coast Leaf. We meet with West Coast Leaf monthly, and we're working on a video project with them and others.
Keeping Families Together, West Coast Leaf.
And we're also working with this VSB school program called Heron's Nest.
Heron's Nest.
Young mothers. And they have a grant to do our training, and they're developing a module.
And that's through the VSB, Vancouver School Board.
It is a VSB program. It's through one of the teachers there.
Oh, wow.
And got a grant to pay them to do the training and develop a module specifically for young mothers. And who else are we partnered with? I feel like I'm missing someone.
Okay. But if we look for that on the web, we will find you with those partners and those initiatives.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Keri, for a great talk and so eye-opening. Lots of food for thought.
Great.
Okay, thank you.